Welcome to the Plastic Adventures Podcast. I'm Doug, joined by Steve, and we like to talk about toys. A lot.
We're here to take you on a trip down memory lane, a fireside chat, if you will, about those little pieces of plastic that captured our hearts and imaginations.
So join us on this plastic adventure, and let's talk toys. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us again for another episode of Plastic Adventures. I am Doug, joined by Steve. And we are going to kick it off with some news in the toy world first. So, Steve, you had some news.
Yeah, a couple of things. Before we get into it, though, podcast, episode 4, Not a New Hope.
You wanted
just a hope for the podcast, yes. I did. I wanted to say it really bad. Yes, and this is the somethingth of October. It's a Tuesday. So, hello to everybody. A couple of news things that I did want to cover today. Something I found really funny. For as good as Takara and Hasbro have been with their toys, there's a new figure, and I have shared this with you earlier, Doug, and I wanted all of the listeners out there to get a chance to hop on to Toy News Eye or Cybertron.com and take a look at the new Optimus Prime. It's really something else. It's the cab section of Kingdom Ultra Magnus, painted to look like Optimus Prime, and it has been dubbed by the fandom Dad Bod Prime. I mean...
He's kind of rather barrel-chested.
I like to say, sorry kids, they can't all be winners. They go to all of this effort. I mean, paint apps out the yin-yang on this thing. The head sculpt is terrific.
It looks pretty good. I like the long antenna.
Yeah, it looks super cool. But man, this has got to be the worst Optimus Prime since like Transformers Energon. When we had Sumo Pants Optimus Prime and he Voltroned out with his little modules that came with him in the trailer.
Oh no, he's not the worst Prime yet.
Oh, that has gotta be the worst Optimus Prime.
No. The one, what is it? The one with the white legs and the flames on the legs with the, oh gosh.
Is this from one of the movies? Because technically all of those are the worst Prime.
I think this is G2 Prime. This is like, where he's got
you're talking about the one with the little launching missile, the air-powered missile, the Heroes.
Yeah.
That Optimus Prime's cool.
No, he's not.
Yes, it is. Megatron is cool too, and he's not putting on his best Barney impersonation as Purpletron. That was okay. That was a departure. That was getting an Optimus Prime at that like $12.99 price point, which was something new back then. You had Laser Rod Optimus Prime before that. $30-something figure, and then you had the reissue with the black trailer previous to that.
I thought you looked cool. That one looked cool.
Very good. Yes, it was very good. The voice box was horrific that came with that, but I mean, it's like $35 or something at the time. So you can leave Hero Optimus Prime alone. At some point, you mark my words, we're going to get an homage to that. But for anybody out there listening, you need a good laugh. You need to realize that maybe they don't always hit everyone out of the park. Go check out Dad Bod Prime. It's something else, yeah. Right. Yep. I don't suppose that you saw the Dark Knight Returns figures from McFarlane.
No, I have not.
They're rad. They are super, super cool.
From the movie Dark Knight? Or
Dark Knight Returns, the comic book. Okay, with the big, really blocky-looking Batman. He's this pissed-off old guy, and Superman's the only superhero that they allow left in the series. They got a Joker, but the cool feature is that it's a Build-A-Figure, and it comes with the horse that he rode.
Oh, really?
In one of the chapters. Yeah. If you buy all 4 of them, you get the horse. I really do like the figure. I like the sculpt, but it's got those oddball articulation cuts on the front deltoids. So like at the shoulders, you don't just have ball-jointed shoulders plugging in like the Masters of the Universe Origins figures. You've got something like that, and then there's a weird little cuff on these things, and I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of excessive articulation. I don't care if Batman can scratch his nose or pat himself on the back. That's a real sacrifice of aesthetics for the sake of having some bendy joint.
They are. So I noticed that the G.I. Joe classified figures, which we'll talk a little bit about later, also have that extra shoulder joint. Now, with those, though, they have armor and things on their bodies that kind of hide that joint, so it's kind of, I can understand that one, but I know that joint is to allow the arms to come together over the chest a little bit more than if they were to just be a regular ball joint and then articulated at the elbows. So this one allows the arms to come in closer.
Yeah, and if you were looking for that really cool Wolverine pose, the one that you always see where he's got his arms crossed and he's got the claws out, yes, pretty cool. But by and large,
but not every figure needs that.
No, this figure just needs to have that cool leaping pose and some lightning behind it, making one of the most iconic images in comic book history. Yeah. Not that I'm biased, but I'm completely biased. That's the greatest comic ever written. But so check those out. Maybe go over to the Toy Arc. That's a great website that covers a lot of things that the main ones don't. I'm on T-Formers and Toy News Eye and Cybertron pretty regularly. I think that one was on Toy News Eye. So that was a super cool figure. Another thing today, kind of a sad piece of news. Brian Goldner, the CEO of Hasbro, passed away.
I did hear about that. Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, 20 years that guy was there. And when you look at where Hasbro was versus where they got to, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
The franchises that are under the Hasbro umbrella right now and how aggressively that they have branched out. Hasbro Pulse, a direct-to-fan sort of affair. He had to have some sort of involvement in that or some willingness to engage the fans at that level and have a fans-only type of a website. You got Power Rangers, which is completely under the Hasbro umbrella now. That's a huge get.
Yeah. Star Wars.
Oh God, look at what's happened with Star Wars. Yeah. I mean
Star Wars is one of those franchises where you could have a hit or a miss, in that same line, and like everybody's like, oh, this figure stinks, but oh man, this figure is awesome. And so Star Wars is always going to be one of those lines. And Hasbro got Star Wars when Kenner fell out.
Yeah, they own Kenner.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but you know what? When you look on the shelf and you see the 77th version of the Stormtrooper, you need it just as much as you did version 1. Something about those toys, man. The Star Wars is rocking.
Don't tell me that, because I have that argument inside my head every time I walk. Do I need it? Yes.
I do that.
Steve said I need it.
Do it. Transformers all the time. I've rebought this same collection like 8 times. But you also have Marvel. I mean, look what happened after Hasbro took over for Toy Biz. Yep. You went from having just the Marvel Legends line, which was the collector-centric hot mess of articulation, to keeping Marvel Legends, but God, they got Marvel Universe, the little 4-inch scale, and they branched that thing and they built it. And there's a lot of junk filler stuff out there. A lot of these movie toys that come out and they're very low on articulation, or it looks like their sculptor simply held a humanoid-shaped candle over a flame and burnt the sculpt in with the wax, like let the wax fall where it may, like all those Toy Biz Lord of the Rings figures. But
I have a lot of those.
I've waffled on them. I actually kind of want some, but anyhow, sad day. They've got a lot of really younger creative people working in that company, and I think through his stewardship, they've kind of seen where to take it. So it's sad, but I really do feel like the company's probably in pretty good hands. Not like Mattel, who has been kind of grasping at straws lately. You can only live off of Barbie so long.
Yeah. But He-Man is making kind of a comeback these days. People are getting a little bit more interested in it. I know that the 2 series that have been released, whether you're for the series or not, for whatever reason, it's fine. Blinky lights. Technical difficulties. But I think for Mattel, the figures are great. The toys, I think, are great coming out of the He-Man franchise. I like them a lot. They're kind of like the He-Man that I kind of always wanted when you were a kid. Even, you're happy with the ones we've got with the Origins, which I think are absolutely wonderful. They're articulated in all the right spots now, but not overly articulated. But these Revelation figures, they're a little bit bigger. They look a little bit like a cross between, like they're in between Origins and in between Classics.
Mm-hmm.
They're like that in between. And so I like the look of them. I think the toys are going to do really well, but we'll see how the franchise itself fares after.
Hard to say if something's selling like hotcakes when they only get one case.
Yeah, that's
and you got
true.
rabid collectors out there wanting to gobble all that stuff up. I guess in another piece of news, I had predicted that we would see a lot more of the Ninja Turtle reissues. Based off of what was being offered in those multi-packs those DTC sites had. I was in Walmart over in Pasco, which is my normal stop every morning, and they've reset the toy aisle. No classics pegs on the shelf. I'm hoping they're just in mid-reset, but that might have been it.
No classic turtles, period?
No classic turtles. I was talking about in the other podcast about how I think we're going to see a lot of them, and there should be a good supply. May not be the case. I mean, maybe we got what we were going to get.
Oh, I hope not.
It's really, really disappointing to see that, but you just keep your eyeballs peeled out there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so in other in toy news, I saw today that the new wave of Mando retro figures is being released, and I am okay with that. I at first I was like, what the heck, where's my Return of the Jedi? But then as somebody explained to me that the anniversary for Return of the Jedi is in 2023, and they may be waiting to release a lot of the Return of the Jedi figures for that specific purpose, for that anniversary. So we may not see retro figures for Return of the Jedi until then, and in which case we're going to see another wave of Mando retro. We may not get a wave in 2022, or this one may just be the one that cross over to 2022, and we won't get another one until 23. But of the figures that are being released, I like the Mando figure. I like the Boba Fett that's coming out. It's the Boba Fett that was in the series, and looks like it's going to be kind of the one that's in the book of Boba Fett. So
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, with his little black skirt thing that he's wearing, or getting that armor strapped over the top. It looks like me squeezing into a Halloween costume.
It shows character progression. He's different than he was in Empire Strikes Back. He's alive.
Totally, completely redeemed. He was just some jabroni that fell in a hole.
Yeah, not after that one episode where he took out that whole platoon of stormtroopers.
Yeah, showed you how badass Boba Fett really is. He's redeemed. He's okay, people. Don't have a coronary.
Yeah, this wave seems to be Mandalorian-centric, right? We got Mandalorian, we got Boba Fett, we got Bo-Katan Kryze, we've got the Armorer, and then we've got Ahsoka, and it looks like a Death Trooper kind of rounding out the wave there. So, I'm excited for it. I do like the retro wave. I'm not going to go out and spend $55 for the Monopoly version just to get the Revenant Trooper. But I did like the Mando wave. I thought it was kind of cool, and it was a nice addition to the retro wave as it is. I personally see the Kenner retro wave as an extension of the original Kenner line. So it was, when was the last one released back then? Back in 80. I don't know.
I think it was about 85 was the last
86.
Power of the Force, and then you went into droids and Ewoks.
Yeah, so
the dark times.
I still consider, I consider a reissue is not the same as a reproduction. A reissue is bringing the line back. So even though it has that retro sticker on it, I still consider it part of the Kenner line of action figures. So we're in a whole new line of Kenner. Even though it's not really Kenner Hasbro.
Well, it's got the Kenner branding on it.
It's got the Kenner branding.
I think the figures are cool. Obviously, I'm disappointed too that we didn't get Return of the Jedi. Makes good sense. For a marketing ploy, it makes good sense to wait for the anniversary. I get what you're doing. And I don't know how much more Mando is out there that you could produce as figures. Selfishly, I would love a Jedi Luke. Oh no! Spoiler alert for you guys who are under a rock.
Oh yeah,
Jedi Luke.
No.
end of season 2. That was a super cool cameo. I loved it.
I must have rewatched that like 7 or 8 times.
Oh God, me too. It would be kind of cool to have a Jedi Luke with a robe or something, but they probably won't do that. That'll probably be part of the Return of the Jedi wave. He really wasn't much different in
different.
look. So
yeah, I think the only thing that was different was the actual robe. It wasn't brown like it was in Return of the Jedi. It was black.
So here is my question: how would you feel, and how would you guys out there feel about Solo and Rogue One retro figure waves?
Personally, I think I might pass on those. Now don't get me wrong, I liked Rogue One. It was, I think, the best of the new Star Wars movies that have been released. It's the one that felt most like Star Wars to me. I liked the characters. I really liked Cassian Andor, and I'm glad we're getting an Andor series. I think a Star Wars-centric intelligence gathering type of show would be kind of fun. But Solo was a popcorn movie. Not the Solo I was hoping for.
So you wouldn't want a retro-looking Han Solo in his gear from Solo?
No.
Yeah, maybe a Chewie and a Woody Harrelson, because I forgot his name in the movie. I thought there was some pretty cool characters in it. Same with Rogue One. So why does Mandalorian deserve 2 waves of retro and not those?
Because Mando's cool, man. Mando's cool.
You're right. It actually is way cooler than than Solo. But Rogue One, you're gonna have a hard time.
How do you explain cool? Like, people just know what it is. Oh, that's cool. That's not cool, right? Like, how do you explain that wow factor, that it factor? It's hard to describe. But when you compare Mandalorian to Solo, you're like, oh, no way, man. Mandalorian's got it. But they're both Star Wars. They're both whatever. But Mando is it. And Solo, not quite so much.
Solo was pulled from the flames of a dumpster fire, unfortunately.
Yeah, poor Richie Cunningham. He had to come in and save him.
Lord and Miller, they make great Lego movies, but I don't know whose bright idea that was to put those guys in charge of a Han Solo movie, but people wanted to see Han Solo being badass. They wanted to see him get jaded, and the things that took him from being a optimistic youth and made him the cynic that we saw in Episode 4.
I wanted to see him be a scoundrel.
Me too. Yeah, I wanted to see him do cool stuff, but Lord and Miller, I think they reshot like 70 or 80% of that movie, and that was Ron Howard coming in to do that. Mm-hmm. So they salvaged it, but yeah, I don't know. I would accept retros. I'm not buying anything other than the original trilogy retros because of the way I display my toys. But if we're going to go there and we're going to put filler lines in, I think some of the designs from Solo were kind of cool. You could have a hologram Darth Maul with half a torso or spider legs or whatever, goat legs, whatever he had there. There were some options. Ooh, a young Lando.
Now, I want a Lando movie. I want what's his name, Glover?
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover Lando movie. Give me that. That dude killed it as Lando.
It'd be kind of cool if Lando was narrating and Donald Glover played the young version.
Oh man, just like have old Lando recounting some of his exploits, and then have Glover come in and be like the Lando that he's. Oh, give me,
dude! Call it the Calrissian Chronicles.
Give me that.
He was trying to record that stuff, and then Han Solo botched it up.
So I don't know if you know this. So in Solo, when he's sitting in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, he's talking and he's trying to record his memoirs. So he's talking about. So there was a book. There was or 3 books that were released called the Lando Calrissian. I think it's called the Lando Calrissian Chronicles. I'm not sure, but it was the Mind Harp of Sharu and some of these other ones. He was talking about what was happening in those books.
Yeah, it was like this meta callback thing. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I recognized as soon as he started talking. I'm like, I know what he's talking about. So that was cool. So yeah, give me that. I'll eat that up. No problem. I think that Solo kind of failed on a lot of levels, but it was still kind of fun to watch. And it's what I call a popcorn movie. Like, I'll sit, I'll enjoy it, I'll eat some popcorn, I'll walk out of there going, hey, that was kind of all right. And it wasn't great, but I've seen worse. Sequel trilogy. So, I don't know.
Me too. Snake eyes. Snake eyes.
All right, we got to get going on other news.
Yeah.
Other news. Savage He-Man is coming in the Revelations line. So the figure itself looks very good. I like how it looks. Steve and I were talking about this earlier. We were really hoping that we would get a Savage He-Man, and so, or what do we call it?
I wanted a Wondar. Yeah, Wonder Bread. Yep.
And this is very close to that. So I'm excited. I'm not sure how I feel about the face on a lot of these new on this particular new Revelations He-Man. I'm not totally against it, but it's not like it doesn't wow me. But the figure overall does wow me, and most of the figures do. So,
well, if there was ever like the mother of all nerd callbacks, it's got to be this Savage He-Man, Ular or Olar, whatever they called him in the classics. It's got to be that character, that iconic look from Mini Comic '1, where he was just from this weird barbarian village, and the sorceress is like, "Hey, want some clothes? Skeletor's got the power suit." And he's like waving goodbye to him.
Sorceress does not sound like that.
Hey.
Hey, He-Man.
You know,
I didn't know what that was.
He's like really evil. You gotta go kick his ass. So it's really cool, man. That's just a great figure. Nice deluxe. Comes with a Orko from the Revelations miniseries, which I thought the redesign was pretty okay.
It was all right. I'm not sure where I am about where that Orko is. I felt he was a little too different, but then again, a lot of the characters were slightly different than I was expecting. Not bad, not in a bad way. Just I don't know. I liked Orko, kind of how he was stupid and goofy on his own, and this one felt a little bit more serious. But
did we really want the corny cheeseball Filmation He-Man from yesteryear? It's got to be grown up and different a little bit. A lot of people are closed-minded to it. You know, it would almost be kind of insulting if all they did was just another Filmation show where the violence is scaled back and you can't see He-Man hit somebody. He can't use his sword. So I appreciate it, but yeah, that figure is completely awesome.
But the Savage He-Man looks good. Looks very good.
Comes with a cool axe.
Yeah, I know, the axe. He-Man with
cool.
An axe.
It comes with the power sword, and I love the idea of different He-Men through the ages being called up to serve.
King Grayskull looked really cool in Revelations. A lot of people weren't sure about him. I saw him and I was like, that dude is cool. Very cool. And then there was the sorceress looking...
the feral sorceress.
Yeah, that was kind of weird too. But apparently she had the power. So, hey, I was all fine with that. So, it was kind of cool.
Having Wondar actually be a character.
Yeah, what did they call him? They called him something. Oh.
I thought it was just Wondar.
No. They were calling Prince Adam. P-Man, was it? Oh, what was it?
Oh, I don't remember. Wee Man, I don't know what it was.
Someone forgot what they were calling him. I thought it was kind of funny. But anyway. All right, so that's it for news. Go out there, check those things out. There goes my voice. And we'll, on the next podcast, we'll let you know whatever it is we hear from around the web and fill you in on that. So now, after that very long news segment that we said we were going to try to keep short, we'll move into the rest of our podcast, where we wanted to kind of introduce ourselves a little bit. And now with it being the fourth episode, and hopefully you guys are still out there. I don't know how many listeners we have. Hopefully one. Hi, Grandma. And we get to kind of show who we are a little bit. So, as I've said before, my name is Doug. We live in the Tri-Cities, Washington, which is in the eastern side of the state. It's the desert state. Nothing green here, unless you're close to the river. Or you're next to the Hanford site, which, if it's green, don't touch it. Been here for quite a while. Before that, I was in the military, traveled the world, and then we settled here in the Tri-Cities. And and ever since I was a kid, was a toy lover, a collector at heart. I got married, joined the Navy, and of course a lot of that stuff had to go out the window, and I sold a lot of things at yard sales that I'm kicking myself in the tuchus for. I sold a box of vintage Star Wars for like $5.
Mm-hmm. G.I. Joe's 25 cents a piece.
What? Oh, anyway, I don't do that anymore. I collect, I hoard. But since I got out of the Navy, I kind of got back into the collecting realm, and I've been collecting ever since. Kind of slowly at first, and then just kind of snowballed from there, and got back into the love of the things that I had when I was a kid. Some of the things that I like collecting are I love all of the old franchises from the 80s. I'm an 80s kid, born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, so I was firmly an 80s kid. Grew up on the 80s cartoon, the 80s serials, the 80s music, all of it. So my favorite things to collect, though, are 80s toys, or toys specifically from 80s franchises. So I love Masters of the Universe, I love Transformers, I love G.I. Joe. Star Wars is firmly in there. And then there's, the other smaller things that I'll collect if I ever run across them, but those four are the ones that I'm actively pursuing in my collecting hobby. Let's see, what else? I am an adult. It's not a how do I say that? Technically, yes, I am an adult. I'm married. I've got kids. I do all these wonderful things. I have a job. I work for a national lab. I'm very happy with my work. I'm very happy with my life, and so I get to now have the benefits of all those things, and so. And I think I've been collecting for a while. That doesn't make me an expert on everything toys or everything toy industry related, but I'm an aficionado. I do like it. I keep abreast of it. So I think it kind of I'm not, like I said, not an expert, but I am a voice. So, and that's about it. I'll hand it over to Steve. Let him introduce himself, and then we'll get on to some of the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, who the heck is Steve? This big sexy bald, mundane man of mystery. Lot like Doug. Born in 79. I grew up in the absolute best time ever for toys. To have toys or to have media. That explosive thing that happened in the early 80s when you could suddenly have half-hour commercials for toys again. And we got all the intros to all the classic toy lines in there. And some of the best toys ever have come from the 80s. Franchises that have just evolved and had that staying power. Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles. I mean, these are franchises that are 20, 30 years old, 35 years old now. And there is still something so special about these things that they are getting people to be engaged. So, yes, I love the 80s. I love 80s music. I didn't realize that they made anything beyond about 1989, but apparently there's radios that play some of this other stuff. I work at a specialty flooring retailer. I don't want to say the name, don't know if I can, but we're really great at floors. I'm the assistant manager, so I have this total white-collar day job that I do. It's a ton of fun. I love my work, but previously I've been a truck driver and a personal trainer. So I've spent a lot of years in my life in service to other people because I like helping people. It's really fun. I love sharing this hobby, which is super, super fun. I get up every day. I go to work. I got a dog. We got a rabbit. My wife has a rabbit and a dog. Have a kid. And, Doug and I just both do the normal grown-up things. We do this podcast maybe once a week when we can get together to do it. Who knows how long that'll continue on that sort of consistency, but we're just both here because we're so passionate about the things all things that came from the 80s. It had such a profound impact on us when we were kids for the same reasons. So, yes, that's Doug and I. We are not exactly the epitome of excitement and adventure, nope. But a Jedi craves not these things.
Okay, that's true. Yes. What did Yoda say? Do or do not. There is no try. I do not. If I can, I do not.
Yeah, I ain't swimming out there to get that sunken ship. I should have parked it on the dried bank or something. God dang, Luke. Kids these days, man.
We're going to go with do not, Yoda. Thanks. I didn't know that was an option.
Can't even trust these kids to park their spaceships on a stable platform.
Jeez, Luke. All right.
Jawas, get off my lawn.
I can just picture picture you at your job. Hi, I'm Steve, the assistant manager. Do you collect toys? Because I do. You want to see my toy collection?
No, that's when I go to the toy aisle. I see you guys out there. I run into you guys, and a lot of you look away, you look down. Don't be ashamed of this.
Nah,
be excited about it, man. And if you see some big bearded bald guy looking at G.I. Joe or Masters of the Universe or Star Wars or something, engage. I'm obviously not a child. I'm one of those really super popular with the ladies toy collectors. I don't even know how the hell we're married, Doug. That's like a miracle.
It happened. I don't know how it happened. Oh, anyway, our wives, if you're listening, we love you very much. Thank you for letting us play. All right, so the real stuff. Now that we're at our 30-minute introduction,
I know, yeah, news and intros.
We try to do. Every time we're like, we need to pare these down, and we never do. We try, and then we don't try.
You came up with a great subject for this latter half of the podcast.
I think so.
Yeah, some brand discussion, which I love that idea.
Yeah, so I was thinking, as Steve mentioned in his introduction, we came from the 80s, and so a lot of the franchises that we collect still are all from the 80s, and they've seen many iterations over the years. Transformers and G.I. Joe have all seen different versions. They've changed, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Sigma 6. What the heck? Anyway.
It's Joe on the shelves. I mean, you gotta give it that.
That's what I'm saying. The last time, buy the stuff if it keeps it going, and then sell it for $1. I don't know. No. But, so we've got these major franchises that Steve and I collect, and I was thinking, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we talked about what it is that we like about some of the new stuff that's coming out from our beloved franchises out there. So, I was thinking Transformers, the big four. Let's talk about the big four.
Yeah, are we good, bad, or ugly? Yep.
Yeah, and so let's start it off with Transformers, okay? Because that's the one that, except for G.I. Joe Classified, that I've really focused on the last year. And so Transformers, I think, with the latest line of the War for Cybertron figures, which encompasses the Siege, the Earthrise, the Kingdom, I think those figures are... Now, I don't want to include masterpieces, because I think masterpieces they're all in a class
niche.
On their own. They're very expensive. Not a lot of people have access to them. So, I mean, though they are Transformers, and they are absolutely beautiful, and they're probably the epitome of what Transformers are, I can't really count those. So, I count these as these are the ones that are available to everyday people, plus or minus a scalper or two, that kind of impact the normal collector. And so, with that said, I think that this War for Cybertron Transformers latest edition of these figures is the best that we have ever seen. I've been through G1. G2 was just kind of a reissue of G1 with larger weapons and different colors. And then we had a little bit more of the modern ones, the Michael Bay Transformers, which some of those figures were kind of hit and miss. I mean, whether, like I said about the He-Man thing, whether this movie, the Michael Bay Transformers, whether you feel good or bad about them, whatever. Some of the figures were okay. Some of the figures were not okay. Personally, I want my Transformers to be blocky. I want them to look like they have pieces of the things that they transform into. I'm not really a fan of the insect type of looking, how the robots or the Transformers look like in the movies. They had a very insect vibe, like a bony vibe, like they were just kind of, they didn't really resemble what it was that they transformed into, which I really like about Transformers. I want them to look kind of like what they transform into. I like the bumper chests and the windows and the wheels and...
They look like a trash compactor had diarrhea on a skeleton.
Yeah, and they tried to explain that in the movie, recombinant DNA and all
whatever.
This stuff. I didn't really care about that. So when I look at these War for Cybertron trilogy figures, I really get a a nostalgia feel from looking at them, because they did a very good job of kind of meshing the toy, the playability of the toy, with the cartoon feel of the old G1 cartoon. Optimus Prime looks like Optimus Prime should. I mean, he doesn't have any weird attachments on his forearms. He doesn't have a large backpack, weird-looking thing hanging off of him. And the Autobots themselves, they all look like they should look. Like very recognizable, and a good mixture of the G1 toy and the G1 cartoon to come up with this new look and feel. But that's what I think about Transformers. Steve, okay. What are you thinking about?
Well, I think that from a collector's perspective, this is the apex of Transformers. The figures have never been better aesthetically. They have never been better callbacks to the cartoon homages. They scale well with each other. And I'll go on to say that I actually like the smaller movie masterpiece line only for the sake that we are getting these Transformers the movie 86 versions, and we are getting Jazz, and we're getting Cup, and we're getting Blur, and they're just damn near perfect.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly in scale with all of the, I guess what you would call like the deluxe scale figures, the $20 figures. So if you are a collector, there has never been a better time to collect a modern version of Transformers than now. And I really do think that they've been doing it right since probably just after the Unicron trilogy. That series of cartoons that came out, you had like Energon and Cybertron. That was nice getting Transformers that transformed into cool stuff and not like monkeys and rabid wombats and whatever the hell they did in Beast Wars.
When was it? Was that Armada time?
Yeah, Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. That was the kind of like connected trilogy for the three of them. Even there were some very cool figures in those lines, but post that, we were getting Classics, Universe, Generations, and that's really when things started to turn a corner, and you were getting some of these recognizable looking characters. Mm-hmm. And I just fell back in love with it. And some of them were kind of like halfway between the original toy and the cartoon. They were good, but I have rebought all of those characters from those 2006s, 7s, 8s, 10s, 15s, all of them in the War for Cybertron line. I will tell you what disappoints me about these Transformers. That is the ball joints. They're very light. They're very hollow. The ball joints are pretty weak. Like, it doesn't take much transforming, and you don't get arms that want to stay in the right places anymore. You don't get hips that want to stay in the right place anymore. And they're coming loose out of the package, some of them. So if you're putting them on their shelves, they're terrific. I mean, never been better. The one thing that I think the franchise has lost, and they've picked it up a little bit because they do have the specific lines for kids. Mm-hmm. So they've got like these Bumblebee Adventures or whatever they're called. I don't collect them, but they're a little bit more stylized, like cartoon stylized, but the transformations are much more simple. So the whole thing that makes a transformer is that it transforms.
Exactly.
And in watching the cartoons and playing with the old toys, it was very, very fast to turn your robot into a car. Yep. Very quick on the steps. So even though these new toys have terrific aesthetics, they're 20, 30, 40 steps to turn your transformer into something. That play value is lost. I don't. I take them right out of the package and I put them on the shelf like what you should do with toys. Never play with your toys. Put them on the shelf. Play with your toys, man. We need kids playing with these things. But anyways, so that's how I deal with it. They just go right out. I might try transforming it into whatever it's supposed to transform into once, and then it goes onto the shelf. So for collectors, they're knocking it out of the park. Never been better. And I got to tell you, you put a G1 Prime next to this new Kingdom Optimus Prime, and if I'm a kid watching Transformers the cartoon, I'm taking Kingdom Optimus Prime. It's just such a better version. I know
if I'd never seen Transformers before and you put a G1 in front of me and this one, I'm taking this one.
And I love G1. There's a special place for G1 in my heart. Mm-hmm. The aesthetics and that sense of just amazement when you walked into the toy aisle and you saw the art and there was just nothing like it. You went from Star Wars 5 points to transforming robots. I mean, that just blew my young mind.
Yeah.
So it is better in the aesthetics, but I don't know that the play value is better than those original toys based on how quickly they were able to do the whole transforming gimmick.
So I do have to tell you, so when I buy them, I don't keep them mint in box, though I do store them in the box. So I'll get them, and I want to put my hands on them. I'm like this. I want to see what this guy is all about. So
let him breathe.
I'll open the box. I'll pop those little, whatever those little plastic wires are that hold them on there, and then I take them out and I hold them. I move them. I look at them. I enjoy them. And because, I kind of like also the box art, and I like the presentation of the figure, I'll put them right back in the box and then put them on my shelf. So they're not mint in box. I don't keep them mint in box, but I do display them that way. And so when I'm playing with the figure, and I'll say play, I'm not embarrassed about that, I do actually transform them into, one of my favorite ones to transform, Sunstreaker. Just a very flawless kind of transforming. I mean, yeah, it is a few more steps than what you're used to, but once you get down and you've transformed him a few times, it feels just like the old one. I mean, you're transforming them in just a few steps. You know which ones can go faster, which ones you have to take a little bit more time on, but either way, they transform really good. There are some that are like, I tried transforming it, and I'm like, nope, never doing that again.
Really finicky, like the parts tuck really tight into places, and you got to get panels snapped into certain places, and I just think that if you're a child playing with this, all the fun's gone.
Yeah, when I got Springer, one of my favorite figures from Transformers, from the movie, right, Springer. And this, what is he from? He's from Siege. Yeah, Siege Springer. I'm never transforming him again. Never, not once. I tried. He's a triple changer, and I tried transforming him into the car, and I almost cried. I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. And I had to fight to get him back into the figure form. So I'm like, nope, never, not once. He is never transforming again. So
thank God for those weak ball joints. Popped right off if they pop back in.
He's a beautiful figure.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's great displayed. I love him in the box. You can take him out of the box as a figure moving on his own without transforming. He's great, but just don't transform him. He'll make you cry. But the other lines that you mentioned, like Transformers Universe and things like that, I thought those were also pretty good, but comparative. The War for Cybertron is probably
no comparison,
the best ever of all the Transformers. And now people may disagree with us, and that's fine. Like I said, all of this stuff is subjective, so there's no reason to grab your pitchforks and your torches and roast us in the comments.
No, but you can certainly be 10 feet tall and comment below.
That's true. But personally, I think they're just great. They scale right, like you were saying. The detail is amazing. The paint is just what it should be. Not overly painted, but not underly painted as well.
I miss the stickers.
I do. Those freaking medals.
They peel off pretty easy, though, too, these days.
Yeah, but oh, man. Have you seen the Toy Hacks has stickers for each one of these?
Oh, yeah.
That you can put on there, and I mean, they look beautiful in the pictures, but I'm like, I can't do that.
Nah, I can't do that. They're doing a really good job. No need to mess around with them other than, if they didn't put silver paint on Optimus Prime's nose or some detail that only somebody like me would get worked up over and have to put my readers on and paint that little nose silver.
Yeah, but nothing against Toy Hacks. I mean, there's a definite market for that. And
yeah, they're cool. They're very good.
Yeah, in fact, I did buy some stickers from Toy Hacks. We'll do a plug for you guys. You're welcome. I bought some stickers for a knockoff Megatron that I got from Steve, actually. And I was like, man, he's so close to Megatron that I want to turn him into Megatron. I don't want to spend $400. I'm going to do this. And so I did the process of removing the orange paint from the tip. I painted his face. I got gold for his eyes. He's beautiful, silver. And I got the stickers, and he looks like Megatron. I mean, he's a beautiful, beautiful figure. I'm happy with him. I'm not going to go out and try to find another Megatron to replace him because I'm just happy with him. And so Toy hacks, there you go. I wouldn't have been able to do it without your beautiful stickers.
The third parties, thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the things I have, I wouldn't be able to have without you.
Okay.
So,
why don't we roll on to G.I. Joe? How do you feel about what G.I. Joe is doing now versus back then? Pass, fail, or somewhere in the middle?
Well, so G.I. Joe right now is going in two different directions. So they're trying to go this retro way, and they're going the classifieds way. So, as we mentioned in our previous podcast, that I think they kind of lost their way when it comes to the retro, which is very surprising to me because the other toy franchises that are within Hasbro, the Star Wars retro, the Transformers retro, they did it right, you know? And then somehow or another, like the people across the hall in the G.I. Joe offices didn't get that memo. And they're like, hey, we're doing this retro thing. And then everybody kind of went, no, you're not.
It's either that or poor G.I. Joe is in the basement next to the guy with the red swing line stapler. Down in the basement, and it's like two people that work on it.
I know. I don't know what's going on over at Hasbro, but I do know that I do collect them. I'm buying them because they're G.I. Joe, and there's not a lot of G.I. Joe on the shelves these days, and I just want it. So I do buy them, but I'm not happy with the G.I. Joe retro line. I'm not totally unhappy with it, but I think they could have done better. They should have gone the O-ring route, or tried to mimic the O-ring figures. If they had to do an update to them, fine, as long as they looked like those figures, which is what people were wanting. I know it was. Because I know in the forums, when they released the pictures of those, people were not happy. People were not happy. And I know some people probably still aren't. They probably don't collect them. But there's enough of us out there who do. So, but the G.I. Joe classifieds, on the other hand, primo. I love them. Great detail. Going 6-inch was a great idea for the G.I. Joe classifieds. I think when they actually display well next to the Transformer War for Cybertron boxes. The boxes are beautiful. The figures, like I said, are very highly detailed. Articulated, but not overly articulated, I feel. For a 6-inch figure, they have just the right articulation. Now, if these were like the 3.75 figures, and they had this articulation, which the retro does, I feel that that's over articulation. It kind of kills the figure. But just right for the 6-inch figure. And I do, like I said, I take those suckers out of the box too. I let them breathe, I pose them, I play with them, I see how they look next to each other, and they're great. And then they go right back in the box for storage until I'm ready to play with them again. What do you feel about those?
Well, I'm somewhere in the middle with G.I. Joe as a franchise. Classified, knocking it out of the park. I do like the idea of 6-inch scale figures that accompany a line like the Black Series does for Star Wars. Because that is a collector-centric sort of a thing. It's all these Joes are like redesigned. Everything is like super cool and modern looking. There's been a few ups and downs in the line, but I mean, by and large, damn near every classified figure looks awesome.
That's great.
Even Firefly with his bulky extra gear, it's purposeful.
Yeah, but when you take him out of the box, it doesn't look as
he's just cool. The Cobra Commanders have been cool. Everything's been really neat. The Zartan, the Flint is just out of this world. So I do love classified. I agree with you. The retro figures, I would have almost rather them just not do them at all. Maybe have a line of slightly scaled back articulation that was like is a catch-all. So you have Snake Eyes specific figures. I think that the $10 price point is probably right to hit for G.I. Joe figures, especially in a 4-inch scale. I don't appreciate tons of extra articulation. I mean, if you can get articulation that is reasonably close to the original figures, that articulation, it served two purposes. One, it was sort of a callback to how movable the old G.I. Joe was. Mm-hmm. He was the movable action man. Yep. But for two, it let them get into all kinds of vehicles and environments. So I feel like that's purpose-driven articulation, and it was very smart. The thing with the hips on those little ball jointed things, and you could kind of manipulate the figure around if it was a real tight operator's compartment on the vehicle. So I almost wish that there was just a line of G.I. Joe on some kind of a card. You could have even had kind of like the retro explosion with the painted character on the front. Scale the gear down. As a collector, I don't need to have 17 swords that come with snake eyes. It's pretty ridiculous. Give me a loadout like the original G.I. Joe figures, and there'll be a bunch of people lambasting me on this articulation thing, but if you really want kids to play with this stuff, they don't want to play with a figure that's like a hot mess of spaghetti.
Yeah.
They need, you need your figures to stay relatively straight. 5 points of articulation is in everything a kid needs. The rest is up to their imagination. But, give them some bicep swivels and bending knees and the ability to move around a little more. So I would have almost rather that they did the Snake Eyes figures within a line that sort of relaunched Joe and reintroduced them at that $10 price point. You can bring back that classic Hiss vehicle. You can do the helicopter, the Fang. You can do the Vamp or whatever vehicles you can still bring back that they're using the molds for. But if it would have just been G.I. Joe, you don't even have to say a real American hero or whatever. Retro-styled cards, scaled-back loadout, but having those Snake Eyes supporting characters be within the first couple of waves, I think that would have been a really smart way to introduce kids back to it and come up with some environments like Star Wars has. They don't have the play sets of yesteryear. They do, like at a prestige format, you get a giant Millennium Falcon or whatever. You get a sail barge from Hasbro Pulse, but they do these cool little dioramas like the hallway of that blockade runner where all the doomed Beetlehead guys get smoked by the stormtroopers. Those types of environments, they've got these small environment packs, and sometimes they come with a figure inside of the pack. I would have appreciated a rollout, and maybe I really haven't really collected Joe since the original figures. That's what I have, and I collect different versions of Duke, obviously, and I've bought a few of the 25th figures when they came out, the better retro figures from 15 years ago. So I would have liked to see the line go that way, where you've got Snake Eyes integrated it with movie support, and you've got core characters, even if they don't appear in the movie. You see that all the time in these support lines. I think that would have been the smarter way, rather than making these cheese dick motorcycle, molded figures for Snake Eyes and some of the other dumb stuff they came out with. Do a line of like those like rescue bots. Do a rescue heroes. What were they called? The firemen and stuff that were there. There was a whole line of them. They were very popular for a while, and they had big hands and big feet. Anyways, somebody will put it in the comments below. If you want a child's line for G.I. Joe, it needs to be supported with some kind of media or cartoon. If you want a line that might take off based on what it has to offer, why the hell did original Joe take off? They had some comic book support, no cartoon, and that original 2 lines of Joe's just blew it up when it came out.
Wasn't G.I. Joe the first one to have a commercial for its comic book?
Think so. So that's what I think about Joe. Super long-winded, sorry guys, but I'm in the middle. Classified was a great step. If they needed to conserve resources and scale it back, don't give us these pressed out figures that came out in the Pursuit of Cobra line, for as cool as they are, and don't fake it on the crap retro cards that they're doing. Should have just given us a line that at $10 a pop that gets kids and collectors engaged in the line.
Yep. As far as modernization goes, though, I think that the classified figures are right up there with the Transformers War for Cybertron. I think they're the best figures that we have so far in the G.I. Joe line. And I mean, like I said, G.I. Joe has been redone many times. We've had G.I. Joe Renegades, we've had G.I. Joe Sigma 6, we've had G.I. Joe the movie, we've had G.I. Joe Built to Rule. I mean, we've had all kinds of G.I. Joe, from good and bad, and I think that classified is so far is the epitome of that GI Joe. What GI Joe can do.
And really quickly, I'd like to ask this: are the Pursuit of Cobra and 25th anniversary figures, are they better than the original O-Ring?
Why'd you ask me that? Because I mean, I love O-Ring, but that doesn't make it better. I love it more, but I don't know. I still think that over-articulation is a figure killer, and I feel that a lot of the modern Joes, a lot of the modern Marvel, have that over-articulation plague about them. I don't need the ankle to move 6 different ways. I don't need the knee to have 3 different kinds of joints in it. And I think it just takes away from the aesthetic of the figure, which is what I think O-Ring Joes did so much better. The aesthetic of the figure was good, even though you saw the cracks in the knees and the elbows and stuff. It still looked like a human figure, where these ones kind of look.
Yeah, I mean, aside from
weird.
turning your torso backwards, that Joe was always back in some sort of actionable way of play. The arm might get turned upside down or something, but I'm going to say that aside from those fingers that were too hard to hold the weapons,
a lot of busted thumbs,
there has not been a better line of mainstream Joe than O-Ring. Mm-hmm. They've had the 25th Pursuit of Cobra. They had the Joe versus Cobra line that came out with limited articulation and then went back to O-Ring. Mm-hmm. And on them, the thumbs were a little bit more flexible, but they had these goofy, like, proportions that just didn't look right on most of the figures. Yeah, they all looked like they're from Pumping Iron.
They had large shoulders.
Yeah, so they were kind of interesting upgrades. But no, I don't think O-Ring has not been topped in G.I. Joe. That was the apex for the mass release figures, classified as probably the finest and best Joes that have ever been released.
I have to say, so yes, the O-Ring Joes, I love the feel of them. I love how they play. But if we're talking about like the best form or the best detail or everything like that, G.I. Joe Classified is by far the best G.I. Joe line that we've had. And that just proves that I think that for the most part, Hasbro knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing with the figures. They know what they're doing somewhat with the movies. They've been doing pretty good on some of the cartoon releases. I thought the War for Cybertron trilogy was actually pretty decent. It didn't have the G1 feel, but then again, it wasn't supposed to. It was made with, I think, kids in mind, but also had they knew that adults would be watching this as well. So it was a pretty good middle ground series. It wasn't, phenomenal, but it wasn't bad either. So and if I was introducing my kids to Transformers, that would be a good one to introduce them.
Any media supporting the franchise is good. I hate the Michael Bay Transformers movies. The toys are almost all junk that you can never get turned into a car or a truck, and the aesthetics are just horrible. But those movies make a crap ton of money. They expose the property, and for every bad Transformers Michael Bay figure that's out there, they sneak in this other stuff for the collectors. So I'm thankful for it, and it'll get my money, and I'll watch it once. I was really hoping that Snake Eyes would do that for G.I. Joe, but they just should have delayed that release a little bit longer, done a little bit of editing on it to make it just a little bit less campy, and you might have had a chance in the holiday season bumping that in. But I think that, what was it, October 1st or something was it? Or no, it was like September 1st or something when it released. August, I don't remember. Just a bad time. So unfortunately, Joe becomes a victim of the pandemic too. But
yeah, I don't think there's, of the 3 G.I. Joe live action movies that we've had so far, what was the second one?
Retaliation.
Retaliation was
the best of the 3.
And that's not really saying much.
Not anything at all.
But it is the best of the 3. So let's see. Those are the big 2. Let's see.
Joe Transformers. What's next?
So Star Wars. Star Wars has also gone into this more modern figure road that they've been taking. So they're also doing the retro way, and then they're doing this what is it, the vintage line, vintage classics or something like that they're calling it. Whatever.
Yeah, they call it the vintage series. They've got retro and the vintage series.
Right. So I actually love both of those lines, and I love the Black series. I don't collect it as much, but that's just because I'm very kind of particular about those ones. I think that I'm not just going to go out and buy every figure like I did the little 3.5-inch ones. I think with Star Wars, I kind of want to make sure I get the ones that I really, really like. And so, but I do go out and buy the retro line, of course, anywhere I can get it. But the 6-inch figures, I think, are also what the modern adult collector really wants. They do want something in that size, that feel, and I like my favorite 6-inch Star Wars figure is Bespin Han Solo, followed right by Bespin Luke. Like those two, I love the look and feel of those figures. I think the articulation is one of those where I think if it was smaller, over articulation, but because it's 6-inch, it feels just right. And I think that they're also ones that kids would not be scared to play with out of the package. I mean, if you have an adult collector who's willing to let their kid play with the 6-inch Star Wars, I think kids would actually really like it. So I think the playability is there for them. They're not overly accessorized, but I think the accessories that they come with are pretty good.
Meaningful.
Yeah. So for Star Wars, I think the Black Series 6-inch is hit right on the head with what the adult collector is looking for. And I think their retro wave is what we called retro done right in the last episode, and it really is. It's something that when you're collecting it, you want to put it on display because it looks just like it did when you were a kid.
Yes, the force is very strong with Hasbro right now. I think all of your talking points are just spot on. The Black Series is the best sculpts, the best paint apps. I mean, it's the apex of what you would expect out of Star Wars figures, and with the addition now of them painting the faces, that went a long way. That flesh-colored plastic's too translucent. You lose a bunch of details. So for collector-centric, they're just banging it out of the park with Black Series. The Retro Series, yes, please more. Give me more. Yep. I would take 88 retro figures. If you put those on the shelves, I'd buy more retail racking to display it in my house. I love them. They're just perfect.
Can you imagine if they came out with, like, they redid the entire line of...
Oh, that'd be nuts. That would be completely nuts. It would sell.
Oh, yeah.
It would sell. I'd be up at 9 a.m. Eastern time trying to get one, and it would sell out in 3.5 seconds on Walmart.com because we've already discussed how big a jabronis those guys are. They don't know how to...
are up now. Oh, you're too slow.
Yeah.
What?
Put it in your cart. I'm sorry, this item has never been available. What are you talking about? Okay. Well. So yeah, they're doing really good. The vintage series, I'm kind of betwixt and between. I do think that they're pretty good figures, and kids can play with them for the most part. I don't think that the articulation is too hyper articulated on them. There is something kind of odd though. The figures, they're borrowing a lot of the head sculpts out of the Black Series, and they're shrinking them down for these 3 3/4-inch figures, and they don't look right. Yeah. I don't know if it's the people painting them in the factory. The eyes don't look right. I mean, Han Solo goes from looking like, pretty cool, badass Han Solo from New Hope, and they've scaled that head sculpt down, and he's this odd pinhead thing. He looks like the Adventure Force figures that you find at Walmart that fight dinosaurs and sharks. It's like the molds are collapsing, and they look like Beaker from the from the Muppets. So I'm not 100% on board with all of the head sculpts out of those toys, but it's a $13 figure. If your kids are into Star Wars, they come with the lightsabers and the appropriate gear. Hasbro's doing a pretty good job of releasing vehicles to interact with, and some of these like diorama type play sets. So I think that they're doing a pretty darn good job with Star Wars right now. Obviously, this stuff sells like hotcakes. So.
Yeah. Well, what are the Star Wars has this like little 2-inch figure line that I've seen. I've seen the Mandalorian of it a little bit. I've seen some of the original trilogy.
Like kind of wonky looking deformed ones?
Well, yes and no. Like, they look, like when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that looks kind of odd. But then when you try to pick apart what's odd about it, you can't really put your thumb on it. So, it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go out and buy them and collect them and put them in my collection. I'm not looking for that for my collection. So, like we said in our other podcast, make sure when you're collecting, you're focused on what it is that you want in your collection, and that is not something I want in my collection. So,
one thing I would like to add. So we've got the vintage collection, which are the higher articulated figures, the $12 price point. They are still throwing some stuff in that I think you could put in your 3-year-old's hands, or 4-year-old who has just watched New Hope for the first time and had their little brains blown apart by how awesome it was. They have always kind of kept alive these little figures that are 5 points, that are new sculpting, and it's nice and modern looking, and sometimes they come in these little tubes that have something in it. Yeah. And sometimes you see these types of figures at Big Lots, places like that, and they're $5 for this kind of scaled back figure. I love that idea for the kid that just wants to fly his action figure around the room.
Yeah.
So kudos to Star Wars and Hasbro. Kudos to Hasbro for keeping that sort of play pattern in mind, to where you're not giving that kid the new Jedi Luke and his pistol cape and lightsaber are gone in like 4 seconds.
Exactly.
They've got that offering available. It's just the lightsaber, sweet-looking Jedi Luke in black, and he can hold it.
Yep.
And that's all that is required.
That's all that's needed, yeah. No, I have seen those, and I think that would be good. That is good for kids. It's good for them to get their hands on. Like I said, it wouldn't go in my collection, but it might be something that the kids might start collecting.
Very accessible. Hats off to making something accessible to the really little ones. That isn't those goofy-looking, rescue hero type big heads and the big hands.
Big
yeah.
feet and whatever.
Yeah. So who's next? Who are we eviscerating next?
Well, let's see. This is going to be one of our longest podcasts, apparently, because we're talking about a really good subject. I don't know. Ghostbusters is going to be a really hot topic here pretty quick, right, with the release of Ghostbusters Afterlife. So the original Kenner Ghostbusters were based off of the cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not
off of the movie, which seemed kind of like a bold move because I thought the movie was way better than the cartoon. Although there were some episodes I really enjoyed.
But they had a syndicated commercial for the toys.
I didn't connect as much with those, but I do remember them, and I did play with them a little bit when I was with my friends and stuff. But they were never the go-to line for collecting. But I have noticed that Ghostbusters has also got the 6-inch reboot for a lot of their figures, and I have not picked them up yet, but I'm thinking I might, because those 6-inch ones are very movie accurate. They got the weird bubble suit Gozer. I don't know if you've seen that.
Don't be trying to look through all those bubbles now.
Oh, jeez, no.
We don't need another party girl Angela situation here from Spawn. Yeah.
But I think because I've been going the 6-inch route, a lot of figures, I think those would look pretty darn cool sitting on the shelf. Having those 4 Ghostbusters and maybe a Dana Barrett and a what's his Keymaster or whatever he was.
God darn it! Why can't I remember his name? Rick Moranis' character. Louis Tully.
Louis Tully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I think those would be kind of fun. I can't speak to a review for them because I've never held them, so I don't know what their articulation is like, but I can assume that they're very close to their other 6-inch cousins, so I would assume that they would be articulated well. The detail that I can see when I've looked in the boxes has been pretty top-notch. So that might be one I start looking for in the future. I say as I'm still collecting Transformers and G.I. Joe and other crap. But have you seen those? What do you think of those ones?
I like them. I like the Plasma series. That's just another one that Hasbro's doing right for the collectors. You got toys that the old farts can put on the shelf.
Yep.
And the new line of figures that looks like it's going to support Afterlife, the mass market figures, I really liked. They had like a kind of a cartoony version, slightly. They still had the some of the similar looks, like with Egon and Venkman, but they're sort of cartoonish looking.
Yeah. And
they fit with this new Ecto 1, and they've got some role-play gear to go with it. So I think that they're doing that right. There's a bunch of them going on clearance everywhere. So there is a big issue with mistiming between Afterlife movie and Ghostbusters toys right now.
Oh, might be a good time to pick them up then.
Yeah, the one that was it Jeff got it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jeff picked up that Venkman for you. That series, they're going away. You're not seeing them on the shelf anymore, but I think they're terrific for kids to pick up and play with.
Yeah. They definitely have that old Kenner.
They do. The scaled back articulation, cool accessories. They fit in the new Ecto 1. They've got ghosts and stuff that come with them to bust. So I really think that I give that line a thumbs up, just overall for everything that they're doing for Ghostbusters. But boy, another pandemic victim where distribution gets pushed back and it's funky because the toys can't get to the shelf in time. It's a real tragedy because I really do think that they're good toys, top to bottom.
What about those 6-inch ones?
Yeah, they're great. I just saw the new ones.
Like an older version of the Ghostbusters too.
Don't want to get too spoilery, but you guys have probably seen it. If you like Ghostbusters, you've been onto the Toy Arc or Toy News Eye. So yeah, they got old Venkman, Stantz, and Zedmore, and I am literally going to double up the underwear when I see that movie, because when those guys show up on screen in their Ghostbuster gear, I'll poop my pants. I swear to God.
It's okay. You can shed a tear.
It's
a little one.
It's a good thing that I eat all of my popcorn within 8 minutes of the movie starting, because that's the way you do it. The last Ghostbuster movie, they tried to have these like kind of funky characters and a little weird. It didn't click. Something was not right with it.
No.
This new one is being very wise to at least have these mentor-type characters. If Bill Murray is allowing his likeness for the toy, he's in the movie.
He is, yeah.
They've been very tight-lipped about it. Ernie Hudson will take it. He ain't got nothing else to do right now.
I love Ernie Hudson.
Me too. The same with Dan Aykroyd.
There's a paycheck in it. I'll do anything.
Yeah. So, seeing these older Ghostbuster characters, looking old but in their old gear, that's going to be sweet. I'm super looking forward to the movie, and it just completely looks like a love letter. The trailer, just a complete love letter to what made Ghostbusters great. Yep.
I've been absolutely in love with it. I think it's great.
Yeah, thumbs up for what they're doing with Ghostbusters for me.
Hasbro, keep doing what you're doing, man. Fix the G.I. Joe line a little bit, and you're going to be, 100% just knocking it out of the park with every single one of your franchises. I have nothing but love for Hasbro right now. I do like what they're doing, and I think that we're just going to... I'm sad to hear the news about their CEO, but I think... I still think that they're heading in the right direction. So
Ninja Turtles.
Oh God.
Good, bad, or ugly with Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. Like, we talked about the reissues in one of our previous episodes, which I love the reissues.
Yep, top notch.
They are exactly what you want a reissue to look like. You want to walk into the toy aisle and see the thing that you bought when you were a kid, and these ones are exactly that. However, so there are some turtle things that I feel like are unnecessary. I have not got into any of the new turtle figures. The Neca figures, which I hear are really good. If I was to get the Neca turtles,
you want to buy a scratcher and win the lotto so you can get some off of eBay?
The pictures I see of them are beautiful. They look like the 90s movie, which every Turtle fan will back the 90s movie. I know they will. I loved the 90s movie. The way they looked, I think it was a perfect blend of creativity with Jim Henson and with New Line Cinema and everything that went along with it. It was perfect.
And it had weight.
It did. And it was dark,
wasn't
but
just
not too dark.
some like goofy thing. They weighted it and they made consequences.
Yeah,
it was terrific.
It was good.
And those NECA figures are the bomb.
Yeah, if they would re-release those, I mean, NECA is one of those firms or those companies that I love and I hate them because they're putting out these beautifully articulated, detailed figures. They're gorgeous. I can't find the ones I want.
You can't get any of them.
I don't know where they're going, and I want them. And then there's the ones that are being released that are more cartoon accurate with the 2-packs, which we've talked about a little bit.
I think you mentioned not liking the paint apps.
Yeah,
I like these figures for being cartoon based, but between NECA and these cartoony ones, those are solely for collector.
Yeah.
But let's get the rest of your thoughts on that.
But NECA is one of those ones where it's like, you gave me a great figure, but if I sneeze or if I pick it out of the package wrong, parts are going to be left behind, and that's very sad. That's very sad. So I mean, NECA they're releasing one of my most favorite action figures of all time, War Duke from the Dungeons and Dragons toy line.
I think it's sweet.
And he's gorgeous, but I look at all the detail and I'm like, oh man, he's gonna break right away. You take him out of the package, everything's coming off of that dude. I would be scared. I'd be scared to open it.
Yeah.
So maybe I won't. I mean, if I'm lucky enough to be one of the guys who grabs this, he's never coming out of the package. He's one that's going to stay in there because I know I don't want to break him.
How about mainline releases? The stuff that's mass release over the last 15, 20 years for Turtles.
Turtles has always been one of those ones that's been a mainstay. It has staying power for that reason, right? It just kind of resonates with kids and adults, and then it just sticks with them. So something fun, something dark, something cheesy, but also something witty. It kind of has everything that you want, especially out of an 80s franchise, right? It just screams 80s. But like I said, I haven't got any of the other ones, so I can't really speak to those. I really can't say if they're good or bad, but I can say that the reissue for the ones from 1988 are absolutely gorgeous and spot on.
Yeah, they're great. And I agree with you 100%. NECA is like the most beautiful thing that's ever come out, and I want that Casey Jones so bad, but not eBay bad. Yeah, I'm Casey Jonesin.
Casey Jonesin.
I like the cartoon style figures too, because it's neat seeing those come to life. They've done umpteen reissues where they pixelate them to look like they were out of that awesome Ninja Turtles arcade game. Great memories from that as a kid.
Many was lost in that game.
Yeah. The re-releases of the retro figures, awesome. Couldn't have asked for more. Other than, please don't be discontinued. Please give us more. So,
please more.
As these figures have released since like the early 2000s, my favorite were the ones that go with the Fox Kids series. There was a couple of cartoon, syndicated cartoon series from Fox. And those figures came out, and they were not a huge departure from the original Turtles, except they featured enhanced shoulder articulation, elbows, and swivels, but it wasn't at the cost of the sculpt. And I'm going to tell you, if I had to pick, it would be early 2000s Ninja Turtles as probably the best Ninja Turtles line that's been out there.
Is that one that was from 2003? That kind of really edgy kind of...
Yeah, they still had the white eyes. They didn't have any like goofy pupils or anything like that. They had a series where they went back and hooked up with all these different turtles from different eras.
Every turtle iteration does that. I love that they do that.
Yeah, so that was pretty sweet. But the toys themselves, I bought a set of the 4 core turtles, and they were like $7.99 a piece. And I have that set sitting on my shelf. And if it was not for the nostalgia of the original Turtles figures, those turtles put the smackdown on the originals. They are so more mobile. They can hold their weapons without causing the stress fractures in the plastic. Mm-hmm. The original Ninja Turtles were almost like Masters of the Universe like. And some of the articulation did not make sense to me for the way that the some of the cuts in the poses that they had.
Yeah.
So, you could hardly get Donatello holding a bow. And so, like the Shredder, his sword hand, he's like holding it with 3 fingers. It's
he
bizarre.
Looked like he was having diarrhea cramps. Yeah. That figure always made me mad.
Well, there's a funny story that goes with that toy. They wanted him to be really tall, bigger and scary, big and scary compared to the Turtles, but they couldn't fit him on the packaging, so that's why they crouched him down in that position.
Oh man,
he looks the original sculptor. It's wonky, but you take those early 2000s Turtles, probably the best example ever. I would say Turtles are doing it right. Even though I don't like the aesthetic of some of the new cartoons that have come out, the figures, they work. Mm-hmm. They got good playability to them. The pricing is right at the market price point for the figures. So I gotta give Ninja Turtles in general a good thumbs up for everything that they're doing. NECA figures aren't meant to do anything but stay in the box or carefully come out of the packaging and go on your shelf.
You can even carefully take them out of the package. Like I said, you look
at it. That's true.
You hold the package wrong, and it's
and they're made of this weird, like weighty, hard rubber, and I can just almost feel the rubber disintegrating in my hands over the years.
Or some of them have been where it's not necessarily the rubber, but like it's the glue holding some of the pieces together.
Yeah.
So like I have the Ultimate Marty Mcfly from 2015. Love that figure. Great looking figure. I tried to take him out of the package and put him on that hoverboard, and I tried to take the hoverboard out of the thing, and the foot strap just doink, popped right off. But the board stayed on the plastic. I'm like, oh, come on. And the thing with the Ultimate Marty Mcfly from 1985 with his handheld tape recorder, the strap on that thing, I tried to put it on his hand like you're supposed to, and the strap, dink!
It's broke right off.
Jeez Louise. So it's like, it's gorgeous. They're perfect. They look great, but man, don't touch them. Don't take them out of the box. Heaven forbid you do that.
Well, why don't we cap it off with the last of the really big ones, Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, we'll try to get that one really quick. So, Masters of the Universe again has gone like a lot of the toys. They've gone in 2 different directions. They've gone the retro way, and then they've gone the way of their newest release, their newest versions of them. So, but Masters of the Universe has this added. They have 2 cartoons that they're marketing, which is kind of an interesting idea. Not a lot of cartoons release 2 cartoons simultaneously and market them and have toys for them. So kudos to them for trying to get 2 ideas out the door and get people interested in them. I have not seen the newest Masters of the Universe, which is kind of like they're calling it CGI. It's like Clone Wars-esque.
Yes.
Or whatever
Incredibles kind of proportions,
I've not seen it, but I have seen some comments about it, and I know that people are a little bit more into it than they were Revelations. But I don't know why. I haven't had time to give it a shot. It's not high on my list of watch things right now. So they have the 3 lines. They have the Origins line, they have the Revelations line, and they have the Masters of the Universe line, which is what I think these toys are called. So I have seen the Masters of the Universe line, and I have to say that if I was looking for a toy that looked exactly like its cartoon, it looks like its cartoon.
Did you catch those? I saw them at Walmart this morning.
I did see them. Again, my collection is very focused. Those are not going in my collection.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not in my collection. But I'm not going to say negative things one way or away about it because I haven't seen the cartoon. I've only seen people's reactions to it, so I don't want to say if it's good or bad or not. I just know that it's, from the look of it, it's not something that I would have in my collection.
Yeah, the kids cartoon, the running one, which they're probably going to try to break off into multiple seasons. These toys are pretty good for it. I mean, for your 4, 5, 6-year-old that's engaging in these cartoons, they did a really good job. I mean, it's what you would want to get to the masses.
Yeah, it looks like it would fit well in a kid's hand, and it looks like a kid would play with it. I mean, So I don't see anything wrong with it.
And I think that same magic when you first held a He-Man figure, this big, bulky, big, giant figure in an ocean of little 4-inch skinny figures. When you look at those toys, it's there. They're they look like something out of a Pixar cartoon.
Right.
But they're these big, bulky figures, and maybe they feel. He-Man felt powerful when I held He-Man. These new figures probably more of the same for kids.
Probably.
Yeah, and then we've got.
So then we also have the Origins line and the Revelations line. So the Origins line, we talked a little bit about last in our podcast. It's one of those, again, retro done right. Absolutely gorgeous figures, based heavily on the original molds, but more articulated. Packaging is exactly what I wanted it to be, just like the
Perfect.
I don't think I can say anything negative about the Masters of the Universe Origins line. I love it. The only thing I can say negative about it is that where the hell are they? Like, I only have He-Man and Skeletor. I want the others. I know they're out there. People have them. I've had to chase them down on eBay. I don't want to keep doing that.
Yeah. So, Origins, better, worse, or equal to the original He-Man figures?
I would say equal. I know that but this is kind of the plague that we've been having with a lot of modern toys, is the plastic doesn't necessarily feel exactly the same, because they had that old heavy
hard rubber.
Yeah,
yep.
Plastic, and the legs, those things you couldn't snap those. You had to really try.
You really had to want to. Yep.
So they're sturdy figures. Now these ones don't feel as sturdy, but I think they're sturdy enough. The look is perfect. It's exactly what I wanted when I was playing with the toys and was like, man, I wish his elbow would move, and their elbows move. Yeah. So
the fact that they're designed to be in the classic He-Man pose, that crouch,
yeah,
that's great.
The squatty
look kind of is a little bit goofy if you're just standing them straight up like at ease, but aesthetically,
I think
everything that a collector would ever want.
They're really good. The only thing I can say is I just wish that the distribution was a little bit better on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say negative about it, and that's really not. That's the toy woes. That's just how things are going these days. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. In some ways, I feel like they do things better. The articulation. I like that the shoulder joints pop out. I like that the waist comes apart. So if you want to customize figures and do something cool, the feet pop off at the calves.
Yeah.
That's great too. They feel like they don't wear out as quickly in the joints. So like you're moving He-Man and Skeletor around. Aesthetics are wonderful, bright colors, everything that made He-Man awesome.
Yep.
I think they hold their weapons better than the original figures. They grip them better.
I think their thumbs are in a better position.
Yeah, and it's just a little deeper well or something. And something happened with the original Masters figures where the initial ones had this little nub on that inside groove, and it was able to hold better. And as the figures gone on, it's like the molds wore out, and you didn't have the nub. But the one thing that makes them equal, for me, is the fact that the leg joints, they are on a permanent peg that is stuck into the hips of the figures.
Yep.
So, if you are playing aggressively or you're a little kid playing with a toy, the chance you're going to break that leg joint. These figures will stand up way better than the originals. They don't have a rubber band that will disintegrate, or if a kid's twisting that leg around, it won't reorient the rubber band in such a way where the leg doesn't.
Where the leg does that wonky thing.
Yeah. Very talented. For the same reasons that, the original Masters, what held them back was the rubber band. Mm-hmm. It was needed to fit into vehicles and in environments.
Yeah.
The new Origins figures have a similar type of issue, just a different version of it. But overall, if it weren't for that, the Origins figures, in my opinion, would be a better figure than the original toys in terms of quality and play value to the figures.
Yeah.
So for me, they're kind of they're equal, and I love them.
Yeah.
God, I love them. They look great.
I mean, they look beautiful on my display. I love that they incorporated the Lords of Power.
Yep.
So you got
they're going deep
and the
on this line.
Man, and oh gosh, I really do like it. I really do think it's good. And then there's the Revelations. So, which like I said, I saw the cartoon. I'm not as off-putted about it as a lot of other people were. I do think that it did it connect to the original He-Man? It kind of felt like it did, but that's neither here nor there. The figures, the toys, I think are really good. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people would agree with me. I do like them. I love the design, the look, the detail. I love the new Power Sword. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah.
It's got that long blade where the other one was kind of short and stumpy a little bit, but
yeah.
But it actually looks and feels like a sword. The figures themselves are really, really articulated well. You can pose them. Skeletor's got a goofy face, but at the same time you look at it and you're like, man, that's a skeleton, that's a skull, right? I mean, it's supposed to have that creepy grin looking at you. And so I am is it better than the originals if we're grading them? I say
I think we don't do that though, because the originals were a mass line release.
Yeah. And
you're kind of comparing them to their nearest partner would be Origins and maybe the new Masters of the Universe cartoons. I don't think. Well, you go ahead. You tell me.
Are they comparable to? Are they better than the originals? I was going to say I don't know, but if I compare them to the other figures that are, I call them like their cousins, like the other kind of. They're not 6-inch, by the way. These things are like
like
6.5,
7. Yeah, they're big.
So they're big guys, but then of course they're Masters of the Universe. So if you're stacking one of these dudes up next to G.I. Joe, yeah, he's gonna be big, right? You expect him to be.
Yeah,
big.
You don't want He-Man to look like he skipped leg day.
Yeah, no. So I think when you compare him to other 6-inch figures, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, they fit right in. I mean, and I'm a big box type guy, big box art, and the box art is right in line with Transformers and G.I. Joe, and the Star Wars now actually started to do box art for their Black Series. I don't know if you noticed that. They went like this orangish gold.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So box art is one of the selling points as far as a toy collector is for me, right? Like, the box also has to look beautiful, because even though I'm taking some of the toys out of the boxes are on display. I like looking at the box as well. So Masters of the Universe Revelation fits right into that 6-inch display. It looks really good. I'm very happy with them. Some of the face, like He-Man, I think they could have done a better sculpt on his face. He looks like, what was that kid that played John Carter to Mars?
I don't remember. I
never
never watched that movie.
Oh man, but his face looks exactly like the toy face. I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's John Carter to Mars. That's not He-Man. But I think that's neither here nor there, because I think that the figure is actually really top notch. And
got a little bit of a smirk. That's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from the figure. It's just one of those things. Like, every time I look at Grunt, the old Grunt, I see Michael Ironside. I mean, that's not who it was based off of, but that's just
Clarence Boddicker.
But I do, again, I love the Revelations toy line.
It's a really good line. It's actually out of what they call Masterverse. So we're going to get a whole bunch of other things other than Revelations. At some point, I mean, we might even get an original He-Man in Masterverse. It can hop around and do whatever it wants. It's sort of like the spiritual successor to Classics.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's what they're planning, and they've got these other Viking, He-Man, and Skeletor, these odd-looking things that are coming that are just out of someone's imagination. That's coming up next year for the line. It's top notch, good paint apps, good design work, everything. If I had one little complaint about it, it's probably the musculature in like the chest and back. So we look at He-Man and we want he has this big V because his back is really developed and his chest is thick.
He's got the pecs of power.
It was kind of it's got to just be an accessory thing, having the aesthetics once they're wrapped up in all of their, like the power harness and Skeletor's gear. If they were all chested and backed out, then these figures might look a little bit odd. But, you strip He-Man down and it's like, do you even bench press, bro? Every day's arm day. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but again, like, if you're looking at it, like, it also goes down to the articulation of things like that. So maybe if they were to make the chest a little bit bigger, it might look odd.
Yeah.
And so I think they went with a little bit more of a smaller chest. That doesn't detract from the figure in my opinion.
No, they're great. They are worth every penny of the $21-$22, whatever you're paying for them.
So Steve actually brought over. He gifted me a faker, and this one is another gorgeous figure. I have to say, I love the skin is ripped away, and you see the metal underneath him, which I always kind of thought that Faker should look like He-Man, right?
Yeah.
Like blue skin, orange armor. What?
Mom ain't buying the kid another He-Man figure. You got to have him look different. So,
but this Faker is very much a He-Man, but oops, his skin got ripped off somehow. But gorgeous figure. Thank you for looking out for me. Thanks for picking that up.
Yeah, always.
Steve is my plastic crack dealer, and right now I think I owe him 4 kidneys and a lung. So,
well, don't worry. You have a marketable skill, Doug. You can internet, and I am a caveman. So,
we're looking out for each other, and that's if we're going to end off our podcast for today, we'll end it off with that. We got a lot of good franchises, a lot of good toys. It's a great time to be a toy collector. But look out for each other out there. Network, find some friends,
share the hobby. You can find a lot more joy in it that way.
Yeah. And be open to other people joining the hobby. Don't be so what do they call them these days? Elitists or toy snobs or a gatekeeper or whatever they call them these days. Just be happy that somebody else is coming along and wanting to share this hobby with you. It's a good time to be a collector. Even though there are some downsides to it, there are
availability issues. Yeah,
but by and large, it's still a great time to be a collector. I think so. Go out there, find your passion in collecting if that's what you want to do, and make some good friends.
Yep. And before we go, I just want to remind everybody, your opinions matter.
Yep.
We want to share this thing with you, so comment below. Let us know how you feel about the franchises we discussed, some of the news, anything that you got. We'll try to interact with you as best as we can, but we really want this to be a community effort, so looking forward to seeing some of those comments and reacting and telling you why I'm right.
Yeah, or wrong. But hey, if you got an hour and a half
sequel trilogy's good.
Day,
mic drop.
If you have an hour and a half in your day and you want to listen to some two old guys sit and talk about some toys, then we're the people for you. So please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and definitely let us know what you think. Looking forward to dropping more of these episodes on you. We'll drop as many of them on as we can. We'll record them whenever we can. I think we've got, like we said, we got 4
got a few in the
now.
can. Yep.
So we'll hopefully our viewership will grow a little bit, and Grandma won't be the only one listening.
All right. Till next time, guys.
Till next time, guys. Thanks for joining us.